For cheap gold, items and other boosts for Diablo 4, visit aoeah.com. Check out the link in the description, you get 3% off with the code ARIAT. Hello and welcome everybody. Since the new Diablo 4 season is starting next week, I've already begun my preparations and created a really powerful Quake-Hota Barb build for you. The core of the build is the new chest armor, which allows us to make our earthquakes explode by Hammer of the Ancients. On the PTR, it became clear that the damage potential of Earthquake is slightly higher than of Hota itself, so this build focuses on the earthquake damage. But with the new body armor and the new glove affix, you can also reach Hammer of the Ancients skill levels above 50 points, so I also included a planner link to a variant focusing on the Hota damage. And theoretically, you can even try to create a balanced mix of both. Let's start with the skill tree. Hota and Whirlwind get 1 point each. For Hammer of the Ancients, the extension is crucial, as it increases all the damage we deal. Overpower hits will happen frequently, so we also take the passive skill Warpath right below. We use Iron Skin as our only defensive skill, which will provide extra damage reduction and unstoppable by the Iron Warrior aspect. Then we have Warcry and Leap next. Leap will generate additional earthquakes. Aggressive resistance will offer some nice protection, because we will be berserking all the time. In the weapon mastery cluster, just some further passive skills. At the bottom, we have the ultimate and a very important passive skill that increases our earthquake damage. Finally, we play the key passive Unconstrained. For the pure Hota variant, we would of course max out Hota and also invest 3 points each into Heavy-Handed, Brute Force and Wallop. For both variants, we choose the two-handed axe mastery and execute all other attacks than Hota with the one-handed weapons. Now the Paragon system. In the starter board, I play the Challenger glyph. We will have a weapon aspect that increases our earthquake damage scaling on our strength value, so we want to stack as much as possible in the Paragon system and on the equipment. Force of Nature is must-have for an earthquake build, so for the legendary node we'll stack damage to close enemies on our gear. In this board I play Dominate for consistent overpower attacks. Next comes the classic Blood Rage board, so we also stack Berserker damage. That is fine anyway, because like I said, we will be berserking all the time, so it just pays double. Here I got the glyph Rumble, because it is the most important glyph regarding the earthquake damage, and in this board we have lots of strength nodes to max it out. Then comes the Decimator board, which also provides a solid damage bonus. Depending on whether we need more berserker damage or damage against close enemies, we can decide between Ire or Territorial here. The final board is Bonebreaker, which provides additional overpower attacks. These will not only increase our damage, but also generate extra earthquakes. In this board, I've put the glyph Exploit. For the pure Hota build, we would like to use the Weapon Master board, along with the glyphs Crusher and Wrath. Therefore, we would drop Force of Nature and the last two glyphs. Finally, the gear. We use the Ugly Bastard's Helm, because it converts all our direct damage to fire damage and then provides a significant bonus to all our fire damage. We play the new armor Mantle of Mountain's Fury, and we want a greater affix on chance for Earthquake to deal double damage. The unique effect causes earthquakes to explode, dealing their entire damage in one burst, which is why we absolutely want to increase our earthquake duration as well, because longer durations mean more damage from the explosions. For the gloves, I use the Earth Striker aspect. Hota ranks are not as important as additional strength here. With the Tempers, we want damage against close enemies and earthquake size. Then we've got Iron Warrior aspect on the pants and Tempers for earthquake size and Iron Skin cooldown. On the boots, we need Fury per second to ensure that our resource management will work. On the amulet, we use the Volcatus aspect, which makes our leaps generate additional earthquakes and provides extra damage reduction while standing in our earthquakes. Thanks to the new patch, we also gain a multiplicative quake damage increase. For the affixes, we want % strength, cooldown reduction, and ideally a passive skill that increases our damage. With the tempers, we take further earthquake size and close or zerking damage. On the rings, we look for strength and life, and one of them should have lucky hit chance to make enemies vulnerable. With the tempers, we aim to reduce the brawling skill cooldowns, so we can use leap and warcry more frequently. Two very important aspects on the two-handed weapons. That new earthquake aspect can more than double our earthquake damage and converts it to fire damage. The other one creates additional earthquakes after overpower hits, and thanks to the patch, this one will now include a strong damage multiplier that scales with strength. So that's why we stack so much strength, easily reaching over 1000% damage bonus here. Of course, the tempers for earthquake duration and damage to close enemies are also important, and for the regular affixes, we want to have strength, life and vulnerable damage, as this also works for the quake damage. Earthquakes themselves cannot critically strike or overpower, but to be honest, I'm still unsure if the explosions can. In the two-handed weapons, I also put my rune words, so I can stack more strength on the gear. I use Bug Tech, which generates an earthquake every 5 meters, and Skilltree, which pulls monsters to us by vortex when we fight on a spot for 3 seconds. Alternatively, you could also do it the other way around, playing Lit Tech and Bug-Cree. For the one-handed weapons, I use the aspect of anger management and elements, and with the tempers, I once got the chance to cast earthquakes twice. Optionally, you could also play a Doombringer for high life and damage reduction. For the pure Hota variant, we wanna add as many ranks as possible, so we got different priorities here. We play Banished Lord's Talisman, Ring of Starless Skies and Ring of the Red Furor. We also wanna stack overpower and critical strike damage here, so also different weapons are needed, and you can include a grandfather here. In this setup, we socket the rune words into the armor pieces instead, and fill the weapons with red gems for more overpower damage. You'll find both planner links in the description below. The gameplay footage you see here does not really fit, because when playing on the PTR, I was still tinkering and this build was not optimized yet. So my new idea has much more power than what you see in the recordings right now. You will be able to play this build like a whirlwind Hota build, but you could also decide to whirl a bit less and just make use of Leap and Hammer of the Ancients. However you go, keep in mind that the most damage comes from the earthquakes when playing this build. Otherwise, you can also try the pure Hota. The Barb is really fun to play. It should be able to run high tier pits, and it should also kill all bosses easily. So I'm looking forward to a truly strong Barb season again, and I can't wait for the launch. I say goodbye at this point, have a nice weekend, and may the loot be with you.
Follow me. Thanks. Goodbye.